Magkano ka, Juan? 10, 20, 30, 50 pesos? Fellow Toastmasters, I have here a 50 peso bill. A decade ago, I received the same meager amount, and since I was 10 years younger, it was just fine with me. This happened during the barangay SK election, wherein it was my very first time to vote. The aspiring candidate was no other than but a friend of mine, and I was one of his officers. The real deal, though, of the matter was something I haven't yet fully understood. What was also fascinating during that time, my fellow Toastmasters, was that with the supervision of the adults, we were all pulled together in their house on the day itself of the election, and that we went at the same hour with our peers to the precinct area. I wasn't aware, ladies and gentlemen, that was actually us being hoarded in their area as voters to make sure that we would cast our votes to the best of their interest. And on that day, I sold my vote for 50 pesos. Fast forward, fellow Toastmasters, the election day is fast approaching. I am sure that all of us here are already excited to see its results. Undoubtedly, all of us will be having a nationwide celebration of this very momentous day. But wait, does the end of it all the thing that really matters? Or is there a need for us to consider the process? Ladies and gentlemen, we must be very aware of the fact that this year's election is no less chaotic compared to the previous ones. This year's election, though, is quite remarkable. Why? Firstly, have you observed that in this year's election, we have somewhat like gotten used to sharing derogatory comments on the candidate's profile who's not in our cup of tea? My beloved ones, it's really okay just to share to the public who we want, who's our bet to win. In fact, it is our way to exercise our freedom of expression, given that we are all rational beings. But what has gone wrong is that I think we have overstepped the line. Can we just settle down to simply share that you believe in this person for that position and that's it? Because this very thing is also the reason why we go to the second worst scenario palpable in our context. What's the next remarkable scenario? All right. Have you experienced it yourselves? You've simply shared a post supporting your candidate in social media. All of a sudden, there's this one friend in Facebook who questions you on why do you choose this candidate in the comment section. And the next thing you know, it's you who's being attacked by this person whom you found out later is a diehard fan of another candidate. Horrible, isn't it? In this case, have we really normalized attacking one another just because we have different candidates to support? Have we now become bullies? It just makes me sad thinking about it. It's as if because of this election and these politicians, we've created the battle of colors, the battle of beliefs, and the battle of our nation's existence. Now, this reminds me again of the 50 pesos in my hand. I know that all of us here have heard stories already, whether it is experienced personally or shared by our dearest neighbors, of receiving alindahaw prior the election day. In Bisaya, when we use the term alindahaw, we usually pertain it to the money given by the candidates in return for a vote. Somehow, we cannot blame our fellows who open up their hands to it, since they have families to satiate hunger with, waiting at their homes. However, Have you noticed again that the money which the Juans have been receiving has abruptly increased its equivalent cost in our lives? Funny that this money no longer asks us to sell our votes only. It now asks us to give out our lives. Remember the scenarios I've mentioned earlier? The constant slashing against one another in social media. The rallies people engage themselves into as we read from various news sources. Or even the lurking war in the corner areas of the country, only for the sake of these people whom we want to be our leaders. Asking the question, Magkano ka, Juan? No longer settles on the idea on the amount of money, whether it's 50 pesos, 500 pesos, 5,000 pesos, and so on, a Filipino would like to be offered with. It's an old story already. Magkano ka, Juan, now pounds on the thought on how much can you give? How much are you willing to do? Or how much are you willing to sacrifice in exchange of the money given from a certain person? Fellow Toastmasters, what I just want to happen and be heard by the rest of us is that we must realize that every effort that we give off that will only harm others will all gone useless. These politicians we could be admiring so much that we would tend to worship them in front of our very eyes might just look at us as dwindling individuals whose roles would just end as soon as they reach what they want. We may see them now as venerable, but in their eyes, we could just be nothing. With this, may we all become instruments for the others to see the reality that none of us can rely in a person to shape our future. It all lies in our hands and hard work. There's no amount of money as well that can afford our entire being. We could be the supporters and merely supporters. Just that. There's no more hurting one another, no more smashing each other's honor and dignity, no more thinking that we're better against the other. All comes now must be unity. Magkano ka ulit, Juan? Back to you, Team Jovi.